Hey guys, hello and welcome to Spud Life with me, your host, Tatty Tim. Okay, so here's a little taster of what to expect in this week's episode.
Like, especially when I first came here, I'd be like, oh, I've come up from London.
Yeah.
And we're like, why have you left London? Why you come here? And I'm like,
As well.
yeah, the responsible thing, in my opinion, is if someone's got no tattoos at all and they're like, I want my hand done, or I want my neck done, or anything really, really visible, it's probably best to be like, no, you need a few more first.
Yeah.
Or
the last Game of Thrones.
The very, very last season of Game of Thrones.
Remember when it was like, there was the final battle scene.
Oh, literally dark.
Yeah, literally, not dark as in, that's a bit dark.
Yeah.
No, literally too dark to see what was going on.
God, the amount of times I saw that meme of the woman like this. Ironically, not the gothy girl, but I was definitely in the like misfit group.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I definitely.
Hello, here we are again in the Caravan of Love with another special guest. I think only my second female guest. I don't know what it is about me. Maybe I give off an aura. Women don't want to be in the caravan with me. We should find out soon. So yeah, another guest from Carlisle. Carlisle is just a hive of interesting people that keep coming down and filling the podcast with loads and loads of information. So today we've got the fabulous Indy D, all the way from Carlisle, tattooist and newly published author. Hi Indy, lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So, tattooing.
Yeah.
That was your kind of first kind of job or not? Or how did you get into it? I'm guessing from school you were quite arty.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had like a flair for art.
Yeah.
It was kind of, just I think you can be naturally quite talented at art.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of the few things I was actually naturally good at. At school. I had a bit of a tough time at school. I didn't really like, in terms of like grades and all that, I never really did. So it was kind of always, I guess I was destined to go down a creative road. But sorry.
Did you do art? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I did art for GCSE.
Yeah.
And I did really, really well in that. And then I don't know why. I think it was some kind of like, I don't know, fuck the system kind of thing. I got to A level and I was like, I hate this. And I just always had a really rough time at school. And then I moved to a different college in the centre of London, right in the east, in Angel. And then I did an international baccalaureate instead, which was, to be fair, I met some awesome people, including some of the people who inspired some of the characters in the book, which is awesome. Because it was very like, it was more international, which I really liked. Yeah. It was like a lot of different cultures that had come to that college.
So what is that? What's the difference? Because obviously A-levels are really quite formalised, aren't they?
Yeah.
So a baccalaureate, is that more...
It's like... it's
an
insane thing.
Is it?
It's insane. I don't know why I chose to do it. It's basically like doing 10 A-levels.
No.
Yeah, kind of.
Really? Yeah. So it's even worse?
It's mad, yeah. I was surrounded by...
I'll take the easy option, but it turned out to be 10 times worse.
I thought I thought school made me feel dumb, and then I went there and everyone just was like wildly more intelligent than I was, and I was like, what have I done this to myself?
What am I doing here?
Stupid, but there you go. I did have a great time, and to be honest, the people I met was awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how long does that go for?
That was 2 years.
That's 2, so it's the same sort of amount of time
as
an A-level.
Same as that. So I basically did an extra year because I did the first round of A-levels, failed them, and that's why I moved. Right. And then did another 2 years. And then did a gap year, and then went to uni.
Right, and that's when you came up here?
That's when I came up here,
And did you just stop here then?
Yeah, I fell in love with it.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd always loved the country. Yeah. Like my aunt, on my mum's side, she had horses and she lived like in Cheshire, so I'd always go up and visit her. Yeah. And she was like, like grotty little country woman, and I loved it. And it was just like, I'd go and spend the summer with her, and I'd always want to stay there. And so I was like, I know wherever I end up, I'm going to be in the countryside.
Yeah. So even though you're a city, you're kind of like me.
Yeah.
We're a city dweller, but we love the country, don't we?
I love it.
The thought of moving back to Birmingham is just like...
Oh, is that where you're from? Yeah.
Nah, I think I'd rather live in a tent up here than
Yeah.
live in a mansion down there. Sorry, Brummies. Nothing against the people that live there. It's just...
Yeah.
I think you just know, don't you?
Oh, totally.
You know? Because when I was young, I was just playing in the park, playing outside.
Yeah. Always outside.
Always outside. It was never. It was. Although I did enjoy growing up in the city because you get the experiences that you don't get in country life. You know, so
That's
you get
true.
and especially for you living in London, you'll have had a lot more clubs and food and restaurants. There's a lot more going on, isn't there?
Yeah.
But you get to a certain level, and it's like I've had enough of that.
Oh, totally. It's a lot.
I want out.
It's really a lot. So, and I think, like, you know, especially when I first came here, I'd be like, oh, I've come up from London.
Yeah.
And we're like, why have you left London? Why you come here? And I'm like, honestly, London is so romanticised.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot tell you. Like, I think everyone thinks, you know, we're like, if you're from London, you're hanging out around Big Ben every night. And it's like, it's not like that. I'm telling you. It's literally, you can't afford to go anywhere half the time. Especially if you're like, I don't know, even if you're 30, which I am now, I couldn't do a lot if I went back down there, to be honest. It's so expensive. But yeah, like, I don't know, we're still hanging around like grey old clubs in Peckham, you know. Like,
I think it's that swinging even from the 60s, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's still carrying that aura of the swinging 60s and that everything happens in London, it's the place to be, and it's like, I want to go down. And when you get down there, like you say, it's so expensive, isn't it? And not
ridiculous.
Just going out, but you know, you're living. I mean, my daughter's got this romantic view of, she's just finished uni, so she's got this romantic view of going down. I says, right. And then you put it in X, Y, and Z, and she's like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah,
because they think, oh, well, they can still live that kind of student-y, vibey lifestyle.
Yeah.
But you can't, and just leave.
Yeah,
and you can't.
It's insane. And I would always say to people, if you haven't been, go visit. 100,000%. It's great for that.
Yeah.
Like, but I genuinely think London is just good for visiting or like spending time there, you know, that's really all it's good for. But actually, like, living, unless you're on a certain wage, you're not going to have a very full life, and you can say goodbye to like trying to buy a house. Like, honestly, it's insane.
Oh, it's impossible to get on the property, unless, like you say, unless you're in that sort of job where you're earning silly money,
mad money.
You've got no chance of getting on the property ladder.
No, it's no way.
So come north. We've got plenty of houses, lots of nice countryside. Lovely people.
Oh, honestly, love it here, and everyone's so much more friendly. Like, so much
and
more
that
friendly.
is such a cliche as well. I mean, there's been so many sketches on TV shows and things about sort of northerners going down to London and vice versa,
smiling and freaking everyone out. It's so true.
But it kind of, to a certain extent, it is true though, isn't it? You know,
100%.
People won't get eye contact on the tube. They won't kind of. Whereas here, I don't know if you walk on the Fells much at all or not.
No, I haven't for a bit, but yeah, when you walk around, you always say hi to everyone.
Just passing someone hi.
Yeah.
Even if you're in the park, walking the dog, whatever.
Oh,
hi,
totally.
Hi.
Yeah, you walk around your village, you say hi to everyone, and it's just totally normal. It's wonderful.
It's like going back, I suppose, in time.
Yeah.
Probably how London used to be. War, sort of post-war.
Definitely more, for sure. It's a whole different world down there, and I think because everyone's competing with each other, it's just like a bit dog eat dog massively. So it's just like, everyone, 10,000 people applying for one job, and it's like,
forget it.
Yeah.
So was it purposeful that you applied to Carlisle College, or so you wanted to get as far away as possible?
Yeah, I think I always knew I wanted to go far, but I always knew I wanted to do like because I basically wanted to be David Attenborough. Like, that was my, the goal. But, who doesn't want to be David Attenborough? Everyone. And it was like, obviously I'm not going to get anything out of being in London if I want to do that. So I thought, I've got to find something where I'm going to be in the country, around natural animals, things like that. And it was.
So what did you do? Some sort of zoological degree or something? Or...
Nope. no. I did wildlife media. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I would have loved zoology. That would have been sick, wouldn't it? But no, I did wildlife media, which is basically like
taking pictures of
basically,
birds and animals.
Exactly, which is great. It was really fun.
So imagine most of that then up here. That must have been so cool because you're hardly any time in the classroom.
Yeah.
And just out in the countryside taking pictures of things.
And that was what was amazing about it, because you did just go out a lot, and that was really nice, because obviously everything, like the lakes, all the fells, everything at your disposal,
just there
nearby. Exactly. And you really don't have to go far to see some beautiful wildlife and landscapes. Yeah. So it was perfect.
even sort of Carlisle way. Yeah. If you go towards sort of Bampton. Brampton, isn't it? Brampton's that way. Brampton's that way. And Hadrian's Wall and all that. There's lovely countryside when you're going into Northumberland and that sort of area. You don't even have to touch the lakes, do you? Because you can get the rivers and you can get the wildlife. It's absolutely awesome.
I mean, I can see deer from my backyard most of the time, which is incredible. I'm watching the heron come in and sit in the beck on. It's amazing.
It's great.
It's literally like looking out. It's like screensaver on the back of the house. It's amazing.
But it is, isn't it? I mean, if you think back to if someone had told you when you were, said, I don't know, 14, 15, you were just kind of in that GCSE, and they'd said, you know what, in 15 years' time, you're going to be living in the lakes, you're going to have your own business, you're going to be an author, and you're going to have deer in your back garden, you'd have gone, no.
I'd have been like,
I did it. But you wouldn't have believed, would you?
You don't.
And you must be like me as well, because I know a lot of people that live here and have bought up here, they've always said they just take it for granted.
Yeah.
And even now, I will constantly just drive around awestruck, thinking, Jesus, man, look where I live.
Lucky.
Because I think because you've come from somewhere like that, to then end up like somewhere like this, which is arguably one of the most beautiful places in the world,
literally
isn't it?
Stunning. Yeah.
So it's amazing.
I'm so lucky, and honestly, I'm telling you, London is so grotty. But don't think it's stunning and gorgeous everywhere. It's really not. Maybe like that much of the very middle. Yeah. That's it.
And isn't that bit quite small as well?
It's really small.
When I went there for the first time, I went there when I was a kid, and obviously you don't remember that. And then I went there about 10 or 12 years ago for the first time, sort of as an adult.
Yeah.
I got off at Euston, and then you come out the thing, and there's Big Ben and the rest. It was all, oh, that's close. And then you walk around the corner.
I've done it all. Yeah.
And there's Trafalgar Square, and there's Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
You think, oh, done it.
Oh, exactly. That's really it, and that's what people think of. And I think in London is that tiny little middle bit, which is, I don't know, maybe 5 mile. Like it's insane.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And I remember telling someone. I think it was the job that one of the studios I was at once, and they were like, because I was moving house basically, and I was right, Shadow Mill, with the big right in the centre of town, the big mill building, like right near the castle with the big chimney.
Where in Carlisle?
In Carlisle,
yeah.
I used to live in there, which was like a 5-minute walk to work, and then I was moving out to Warwick Bridge, which is 20-minute drive, and they were like, oh, driving 20 minutes to work. And I was like, are you joking? I used to get on an hour-and-a-half bus in London to get to work. Like, this is nothing.
This is nuts.
I could run in if I wanted to. It's like, it's so nice. And also, I remember our nearest shopping centre in London was about a 45-minute drive away, and that was Westfield, but it was 5 mile distance from our house.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And it takes us the same amount of time to get to Metro Centre. And it's 50 miles away. It's like,
it's mental.
But
that's what when we first moved, it was like we were that used to sitting in traffic, hour and a half, and it was like,
oh yeah, I bet you were in Birmingham.
Well, that's where, because I used to ride a bike all the time.
Oh yeah.
So I was on a motorbike, so I was constantly in and out of traffic. And if ever the bike conked and I had to go in the car, I had it with it. And the worst thing was, you'd see the same people in the same positions almost every day, and you just whiz past them on your bike. You think, this literally is the rat race. It was, what was I getting at? Oh yeah, so when we first moved up, that same truck, we didn't think of things in, Manchester's nearly 100 miles away or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's an hour and a half away. Which is pretty much how much it would take you home to get home from work on a night.
Literally.
So it was like, let's go to Manchester for the day.
You
or
could.
Let's go to Newcastle, or let's go to Glasgow. And people used to think we were mad.
Yeah,
because
you can though, can't you? And that's again something that people don't really understand down in London is you can just do like a day trip to Glasgow or Newcastle. It's so easy.
Somewhere a completely different city. And when I first moved, not so much now, but when I first moved up, it did take me a little bit to get used to the slower pace of life. So I used to have to hit cities just for a bit of a fix.
Just a little fix of it, yeah.
Oh, that's better. Right, I've had enough
Energized.
now. I'll go back to my quiet country lifestyle now.
Literally.
And it was like, you'd have probably had similar experiences, or did you just
that? Or also, I'm like, no, thank you. I'm done with that.
You just cut the cord completely.
When can we go home? And the irony is I've been to Birmingham quite a few times in the last few years because I've done
some tattoo shows.
Yeah. I did UK TTA the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So I've been down there. I've like spent quite a bit of time in Birmingham, ironically, in that, and I also get tattooed by a girl down there as well. She's tattooed my back and my arm and quite a few bits of me. So
we'll get onto that in a minute because I'm guessing I've got some sort of unknowingly got some. All of my tattoos are done by a guy that turned out to be this amazing guy that people from all over the place went to. A guy called Mickey Sharps. You ever heard of Mickey Sharps?
I've heard of him. Yeah.
So, kind of jumping the gun a bit here. But Chris, one of the tattooists who I interviewed.
Yeah.
I had a chat with earlier in the episodes. He's the oldest serving tattooist in the county, so he's been tattooing since '89.
Oh gosh! Wow,
so they used to go from here in Carlisle. He's from Carlisle originally, so they used to go from Carlisle to Birmingham for the day just to get tattooed by Mickey Sharps because Mickey was one of the first. Believe it or not, that was actually Fine Line. So,
really?
back in 1984.
Yeah. Times have changed a little bit, yeah.
So, and he kind of pioneered a lot of new techniques, inks,
awesome.
and I think when I've spoken to a lot of people, especially people in the Midlands, they all know Mickey Sharps.
Yeah.
And it was just your classic backstreet.
Oh yeah, pick something off the wall kind of thing. Yeah.
And it was just like, and you know what? If I was a tattooist now, I'd go back to that. I'd have a proper retro, just the walls covered with.
It's about time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been long enough.
It has. It's been probably 40 odd years. So I think, and I'll tell you what else I've noticed, that people are getting more. You've probably noticed it a lot. I don't know whether you have or not. People are going back more for that.
I like the patchwork.
Yeah. I call it the sort of sailor look.
Yeah.
And it's that old vintagey kind of
the more traditional
sort of tattoos.
Yeah, totally.
But just splattered.
Dotted.
Yeah. But colour and chunky and
absolutely.
no sort of fine. We was in Sheffield yesterday because I explained I was moving my daughter out of her flat, and there was a girl served us at this restaurant we were at, and her one arm was all. Like that. Yeah.
So it does look awesome, and it is popular.
Yeah. I think in the right context, it looks really cool.
Absolutely, I've kind of going for that kind of vibe a little bit.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I like that.
That's nice.
Megan Ray.
So let's get back to Carlisle.
Let's do that. Yeah.
So you moved up.
Yeah.
You did. How long was the course? About a year.
The uni course.
Yeah.
That was 3 years.
Was it 3?
Yeah.
Wow. So you did a lot of studying, didn't you?
Too much. I don't know why, because I hate school.
And you were living in Carlisle then?
Yeah. I lived in student halls in Denton Home the first year, then lived on Warwick Road second year, and then third year lived in Shadow Mill. So,
right. So you weren't up here for any of the flooding, were you?
I was. 2015 floods.
Were you?
Yeah.
So that was the 2015.
They were pretty bad.
Was that the Cockermouth one as well? Can't remember.
It covered a lot of Carlisle.
Was that the bigger one?
It was because there was 2010.
Yeah.
And then there was 2015.
Yeah, so I think because I was in the fire service, and so I was in when the 2010 one was in, but I was out in 2012, so I missed the 2015 one. Yeah. But I know from here, nobody really went to Carlisle. But I think the 2010 one, people could prove me wrong. If we're wrong, put something in the comments. But
he's wrong.
I think that was when the big office block thing down by the old fire station.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the fire station got flooded, the cop shop got flooded.
I think
all of that Hardwick Circus got flooded, didn't it?
It happened in 2015 as well. Yeah, it was pretty like apocalyptic feeling, to be honest, as well, because I remember we were really lucky in the flat we were in. We were almost like on a little island that didn't get like affected, because we were near Sainsbury's, obviously was like underneath it. I remember when that happened, we walked down to have a look and see, there was just people rowing down the road. We were like, oh my god.
Yeah, because Denton Home's kind of on a bit of a downhill, really.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So and were you in Denton Home then, or not?
No, we were in the second year flat, which was where would it come? It was kind of, you know where Lidl is?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just opposite that. It's those little flats there.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were like on the top bit, and there was just no water around us. We were really lucky. Wow. So we just literally missed it, which was insane.
So, yeah.
Literally, if we'd been a year before or a year after, we would have been underwater. It was mad. Yeah. But I remember we walked down to Hardwick Circus.
Yeah.
And it was like so eerie because all the car alarms were going off under the water, and we were just like, this is so weird.
It is
I'm pretty sure I've still got pictures on my phone.
It is mental.
Like, really
and it's just when I was in the fire, I used to, I mean, it's horrible for people because they're losing a lot of the stuff. But as weird as it sounds, it was one of my favourite things, because it was all natural. So it was, you were seeing nature at its most raw and vicious.
Totally.
So you were kind of out, you know, when everyone else was tucked up inside, you were out in the thick of it.
In the action,
And it was kind of like, it was so awe-inspiring to see. You know, you'd see the rivers,
mad rushing
insane,
rivers.
You know, one slip and you're
in
gone.
there. It's true.
And it was just the wind, and I was crazy. It's the only time I've ever been kind of scared as well. Because
I get you.
It's just the wind is meant. It must be like how it is when you're. Well, I know how it is because I've been in a tornado. But
oh wow,
it's kind of. It'll be that similar sort of thing for people, you know, when you're experiencing nature. It's most.
Oh, it's terrifying. Like what it can do, it's insane. Like we've got a beck at the end of our garden, and it's usually quite low. Like, but it was when it was raining quite hard a few weeks back. I was standing on the living room, and I could see the water like rushing past. I was like, I better stay right where it is because that is too high. But it's not. It's so true though. Like one of the dogs fell in a while back, and was like down the river, and we had to sort of dive in and grab him out. Luckily, it was quite low, but he's so small, so it was just like, oh man, you get carried right away.
End up somewhere mad. So what was year 3? You finished your course, got your degree.
Well, year 3 I started having a bit of a panic because my birthday's in September, and that's when we start up again for the year. And I was just like to my partner Nathan, I was like, I'm really not going to be David Attenborough at the end of this course. Let's be realistic. Really need to think of like plan B. And I was just sort of thinking, like, on the run up to Christmas, I was like, what can I do apart from anything? What can I, because I was settled in Carlisle and I loved it. And because Nathan's from Teesside, he was like, you know, I don't want to go down south either. And that's fair enough. And we just sort of decided we love it up here. And I was like, right, we're settled here. What can I do here that works for me? And you know, it's something I can do until maybe I'm David Attenborough. Who knows? But so I'd been getting tattooed at one of the studios in Carlisle.
So had you any tattoos before from London or not?
Oh no, none from London.
So your first time you ever got tattooed was in Carlisle?
Yeah, it was up here. Actually, my first one ever was in Newcastle.
Right.
And that was just because Nathan had found him on Instagram. I was like, oh, this guy looks good. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good to me. Just anything at that point. I hadn't got anything, and I knew it was wanted tattooed.
The addiction started.
Exactly. And it was one of my best friends who recommended the studio. Well, in fact, it wasn't even the studio; it was the artists.
Where was this, in Carlisle?
Yeah, it was Kizzy McLean. At that point she worked at Immortal.
Right.
And she'd been tattooing my best friend's boyfriend, and she was like, "Why don't you get tattooed with her?"
Yeah.
So I was like, 100%. So I started getting tattooed by her, and then Nathan was like, "Why don't you try being a tattooist?" And I was like, "That sounds terrifying. Absolutely not." And then I was like, sort of warming into it because obviously I was like, I love tattoos. Yeah. I was always going to get more.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed tattooy stuff, tattooy programs. And I just started drawing again because I hadn't drawn for about 8 years at that point. Like, it'd been a really long time.
So pretty much since you left school, you had not
Yeah, no, I
really
hadn't
put pen to
done
paper.
any drawing.
Wow.
Except for maybe like a bit of, I don't know, analytical drawings at uni or something of some leaves. But I hadn't done any proper drawing. And he was like, well, why don't you just try? You know, you never know. And I was like, okay, fine. So I did a little, like, I don't know, booklet of drawings and took it in. And they were like, yeah, when do you want to start? And it's sort of like, it was literally the week after I was like in there.
You were like an apprentice straight away?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then it was just
And then you just took off. That is insane.
Yeah.
Because your Instagram is like mental, isn't it? You got like 20k.
Oh, yeah, no.
So how did that kind of evolve?
A lot of hard work. It's not. I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions about the tattoo industry is that it's maybe like easy money kind of thing, when actually it's like to be desirable in the tattoo industry and to be good and to be, you know, and one of the main things about the tattoo industry is you really need to make sure your clients feel comfortable and like not intimidated by the environment or you, because it can be, especially a lot of the preconceptions of the tattoo industry.
Like when we, just sorry to interrupt, but going back to when I had mine done, it was, because this is what I wanted to touch on with you as well. Like I said to Chris, when we were getting our tattoos, it was bikers, villains, or military.
Exactly.
That was the only people that got tattooed.
Yeah.
And you go into a tattooist, it'd be like the seediest looking place.
It'd be scarier.
In fact, sex shops look more open and appealing than a tattooist is.
Like skulls looking at you.
And then it was like, and you'd walk in, and it literally would be. So that my first one was this that barbed wire.
Oh yeah.
Because you did a barbed wire around someone's
forehead.
Yeah.
Ollie,
looks a lot better than this.
Yeah,
Well, it was run by a local MC, so it was a proper grotty little. So you go out, there was just choppers outside.
Yeah.
Classics.
Everyone's staring at you as you go in.
Yeah. No one speaks. What do you want?
Yeah.
Like, and you're like this skinny little 15-year-old. I'll have a
Please.
I'll have a subtitle. Just anything.
Don't hurt me.
And then it was. So then you get your next ones, and then you get that addiction. But they are all intimidating places, and it makes you wonder if they'd still remained the way that they were, whether tattooing would be as popular now as it is.
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? I think obviously it has that natural evolution, because Chris kind of pinpoints it down to the fact when it was always that trio of people that always had the tats. Until David Beckham started getting tattoos. Yeah,
he kind of popularised it a little bit, didn't he?
The England captain's covered in them. Then it becomes the norm. And then you get your stars, your Kardashians, and all these other people that start doing it.
Yeah.
And then
it's a bit more normalised.
And it's totally normalised now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like he said, there were the odd person that would have one. Like he said he had this one solicitor. He was absolutely covered.
Yeah, sneaky one under the shirt.
Yeah. But this guy was absolutely covered.
Oh yeah.
But you couldn't
right up
see anything.
To the sleeve.
Yeah. And a few sort of middle-aged housewives that were, and it was funny because there was a friend of my wife's. She worked at the doctor's receptionist where she used to work at, and she was the most. You would think the most squarest. Middle-aged, boring housewife, and she was covered, not sleevey or nothing like that.
But
just
ones.
Random bits and bobs in sort of what he classes sort of feminine places.
Pretty
just
ones.
Sort of like ankles and not little places that.
Of course.
Usually women used to have in the past.
Whereas
now it's just like straight for the. Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because I said this to Chris. Now. When we had ours done, you'd start on your arms, and then you'd probably shoulders and your chest, and your hands and your neck with the very last place. Now it's almost like, right, I'll have one on my throat, one on each back of my hands.
I know what you mean.
One on my forehead.
It's a very divisive thing amongst tattooists. They're like, do we do that first? No.
Would some people not?
I think,
Depends on the age of the client as well.
The responsible thing, in my opinion, is if someone's got no tattoos at all and they're like, I want my hand done, or I want my neck done, or anything really, really visible, it's probably best to be like, No. You need a few more.
Yeah.
But obviously, if someone comes in, they're like covered, and they want it's like
that's really gap lift.
No problem.
Yeah,
I think you've committed at this point. It's fine. But yeah, you get a lot of that, and you just think you're just showing off. You know what I mean? A little bit.
That's what it seems to be, isn't it? It's like,
yeah.
Because obviously, when you're summertime, everyone can see what you've got, but then wintertime, no one would necessarily know unless you've got any visible ones. No one would know.
Well, exactly.
So it always seems to me that a bit. Hey, look at me! I've got a big tattoo.
Good tattoo.
Yeah. And it's weird though when you see them this time of year because they're just there. Everyone else is playing.
Yeah, I know.
This is that looks a bit odd.
I know.
Each to their own now.
Yeah. Exactly. Ultimately, do what you want with your body.
Yeah.
Like, it's yours. But I think, especially if they're young, it's definitely better to be like, look, just, have a think about it.
Yeah.
We're not going to ever be like, don't get that.
No.
Like, if you want what you want, you like what you like, and that's fine, and we're here to provide that for you, ultimately. But I think we also have to be partly you're responsible for your choices and guide you.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, it is permanent, isn't it? So ultimately, you're gonna have to go through a lot of pain to get rid of that, aren't you?
Yeah.
And,
if it ever goes, I mean, I think a lot of this laser stuff is getting better, isn't it, or not?
It is pretty good these days.
Is it?
Yeah, I think. You're still not really going to get away with less than 3 sessions to completely get rid of something.
Right.
I think what's difficult as well, though, is colour's quite hard to get rid of with the tattoo with the laser machine. So I think if you get a really big colour piece, that's a little bit more tricky to get rid of. Yeah. But
like the general sort of black and grey, shady stuff.
Dark ones are quite easy to get rid of.
Are they?
Yeah, because essentially how a laser machine works is it just targets the dark pigment in the tattoo and sort of disperses it. The ink disperses, and then it gets carried away by your bloodstream.
Does it?
Yeah, and then passed.
Because how many layers deep is it into your skin?
I'm going to say about 2 or 3. It's not like that deep, because if it was really, really deep, I mean, that's when you get something called a blowout, and you see that like blue cloud behind it.
Right, yeah.
And that's when it's gone.
Is that when someone's really gone?
They've got in your arm.
You can see them, the whites of the knuckle.
That's when they've really gone for it. So you ain't ever getting rid of that one.
So did you have to learn? Do you sort of learn on the job?
Yeah, it's definitely very much.
There isn't a school of tattooing, is there?
I mean, there probably is somewhere.
Yeah.
But the traditional form of learning to tattoo is you get an apprenticeship with an established shop.
Yeah, it's passed down.
Exactly, and you work for free.
Yeah.
That's typically how it works anyway. You work for free, you get the knowledge, and then you either rent. I mean, you probably should work for that studio unless they're really exploiting you, by the way, which happens a lot, so don't let that happen.
Really?
Loads. Honestly, it's shocking. But so you typically work for free initially, and then you start tattooing, and then you maybe do a few free tattoos.
Yeah.
And because obviously then if you fuck up, then it's free.
Yeah.
You
suck it up.
You signed up for it.
Exactly.
So
who supplies the inks and that there for that? The studio.
You what, sorry?
Does the studio supply all the ink and that for the freebies or not? Or do you have to pay for it?
Oh yeah, no. You usually obviously they'll have their like established client base.
Yeah.
So they'll be like, oh well, this person's happy to get a free one off you. But at that point, you probably should have done some trialing on fake skin.
Yeah.
Because you can get lots of really good fake skins now. So at that point,
so you're not going to the butcher's and just buying half a pig?
Not anymore. I mean, you can. Why not? If you want, whatever. But typically, want to be a bit more hygienic these days. Just raw pigs in the studio. Not very welcoming, is it? When you come, there's just like a slab of meat on the.
What do you want?
Come in. But yeah,
because a few people get it on the docks and that now. There's a lot of people get tattoos on their shoes and that. Have you ever done any?
Oh
of that?
yeah, like the white ink ones. Yeah. I've seen a lot of that recently, actually, and I saw loads when I went to UKTTA as well. Loads of people with decorated bags
things
and stuff, which was really it does it great.
Well, it's basically just leather, isn't it?
Pretty much. So, Although I haven't seen what it looks like in a year or 2 years yet. So watch that space. I have no idea how it turns out, but assuming it heals well. But yeah.
So you went and you did your kind of apprenticeship.
Yeah. I was there for about 2 years.
Yeah.
I was an apprentice probably for about it was February to September, so maybe like 8 months.
Yeah.
7 months.
But you were gradually getting paid.
Yeah.
You only did it free for
no. So I'd be watching for a long time.
Yeah.
I initially started out just watching my boss tattoo, and then I did like some fake skin tattoos.
Yeah.
And then I did a bunch of free ones, and then it got to a point where it was actually doing quite good, and he was like, no more free tattoos. And I was like, cool,
I've made it.
Great. And so yeah, then I started, like, they would take a percentage and you'd keep a percentage of however much the client paid, and then your percentage would gradually get bigger. It should get bigger. Just put that out there as well. But so my percentage did get gradually bigger, and then you become a fully fledged artist.
Yeah.
And then, however the studio works, you either continue just paying a percentage, or you just pay like a chair rent fee.
A bit like a hairdresser.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then that's either weekly or monthly or whatever, and then you go from there.
Yeah,
and
take it from there.
Pretty much your own boss at that point.
Yeah. So it must have been, because I said this to Chris, and I don't know, could you remember that far back, Chris? Well, we never got to that point, but it must have been so nerve-wracking when you were on your first human.
I genuinely
And it must have been like, shit.
I went in like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not going to go well. But I have to say, though, I think my first tattoo did come out really good.
Did it?
Yeah. It was just a little bee.
Was it something fairly...
Yeah, it was just a little bee.
You're not straight on a back piece or anything like that. It's just something you really
like
sort of lit up.
Something. Yeah, it was tiny.
And was it one of your pieces of art as well? Or not?
No, I think I just found a photograph of a little bee.
Right.
And I just went off that.
All right.
And that's what I did.
Because it's still the transfer type thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's the carbon transfer. It's like.
But do you ever do freehand or not?
It's pretty much all I do
these days.
Now? Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm on mostly.
So you'll just literally draw it on the thing.
Yeah.
And then.
I actually personally believe you get better tattoos sometimes, because I think that way you can properly form fit the body.
Yes.
I think when you draw a stencil,
you
never know what someone's body type is going to be. You could draw one and put it on, it just looks so wrong, or it just doesn't fit, or
well,
whatever.
That one was off the wall.
Oh yeah.
And all of the others, that was a cover up, because that was all.
Yeah.
There's an upside down pentagram there and a 666 in Indian ink on that one. Nice. So we've got that. So all this is freehand. You just kind of, I said, just do what you want. That was kind of freehand. Yeah. And like I said, that was fine line, believe it or not. You could see every strand of his beard.
Oh, yeah.
And believe it, I seem to be turning more and more into him as the years go on.
Maybe could be worse.
Maybe it was a self-portrait.
Could be turning into the demon or the skull.
Exactly. And then that was a cover-up. And that did look pretty good when it was done. And I mean, considering it's 45 years old, there's still a decent bit of colour in there, isn't there?
Yeah, totally.
But
for sure,
it's kind of like them things. I always think to myself, should I get some more?
Yeah.
Should I? Shouldn't I? And then you think, well, because they're that old, to put something new against that would look like, so stark, wouldn't it?
I do. Yeah.
And then, as well, I just keep changing my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, first I want a horror one, then I want a fantasy one, then I want a Viking one, then I want a Japanese one.
Yeah.
Then I go back to a horror one, then I go to something else, then I want a Godfather one. Then it's like...
Just get more. Just get more. It'd be great.
Shall I book you in?
Just get all of them.
I'll book it with you.
Yeah.
But it's like...
I tend to find, though, what you were saying, when you can't make up your mind, as long as you like one of them, you get it. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I know that sounds really random, but the second it's on you, you're like, I'm really happy with it.
I think you would be, wouldn't you? Because I suppose it's the same when you go for a meal. And it's got a big choice of menu. It's like, oh, I want that. But I want that. I want that. And then you end up getting something. Usually, you like what you got, unless somebody else gets what you wanted, and you look at that and you think, we should have that instead.
Damn it.
So, you've always worked then at the same studio since, or not?
No, I left that studio. I mean, I've always known I don't do well with a boss. In the least aggressive way possible. I'm not. I like to work for myself. Like, I'm definitely like a self-taught kind of person. I really like to be able to be completely self-sufficient. So I always knew that from beginning of my tattoo career, I knew I would have my own space.
Yeah.
Eventually, however I got there. So yeah, it was kind of, and I wanted to, every place I left to be as respectful as possible. Obviously, they've, given you this much, they've taught you this much, they got you as far as they have.
Right, yeah.
And so I'm really, really grateful. It was Immortal Art that I started.
Yeah.
They were great. I can't knock them. I had a great time. I'm here because of they gave me that chance. Ultimately, so I left them after 2 years, and then I moved on to a place called Get Modified. It's in Town Centre.
Right.
Again, great guys. Still really great friends with them. They're awesome. They've got a beautiful studio now, which is. Do you know where Studio 58 is?
No.
Do you know where? You know where the McDonald's is, and there's that like
Which one?
tunnel, the one right in the centre of town.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's that like
into the lane
tunnel. It's a really dark, creepy tunnel with like a really bleeping noise.
Yeah.
But you go to the end and there's this gorgeous courtyard.
Yeah.
They're
On
just
Fisher Street, down towards the
exactly.
big
Yeah, it's like a stunning little pocket of town. It's beautiful. They're just in there, and I was there for 2 years, but they were over on Lowther Street at that point.
Right.
And they were great. Most of
so
them.
they're still in that courtyard?
Yeah, they're in there now. They've only just moved there, really,
right.
sort of quite recent. But yeah, it's a stunning shop. And I was with them for 2 years, and then I moved to Fisher Street March 2020, right before we all got locked down.
And is that when you decided to go by yourself?
Yeah, that was when I was.
No way.
Yeah. Or at least I had like 100% responsibility was on me.
Yeah.
Put it that way. I moved in with another artist, but she's moved on now too. But so then it was just me.
So, and then you were knackered because you couldn't do a thing.
Couldn't do anything. But I mean, I was really lucky because we moved in, I think it was 2 days off the cut-off point for help from the council for like small businesses.
All right.
So we got the help from the council, which was amazing because we had, no joke, spent every penny that we had on doing the room up.
Yeah.
Because we had to like, forward pay rent, deposits, pay for everything to be like hygienic and all that jazz, and pay for all the, the hygiene checks, and it was like nuts. And we literally, I remember so clearly as well that I'd taken 2 weeks off. No, I'd taken 3 weeks off. I had 2 weeks of people booked in when I first was going to start, and then I had 3 weeks off because I was like, I'm so tired. And then literally the day after we were meant to go in, they locked us down and everyone had to be cleared, and I was like, oh my god, I've got 5 weeks off. What am I going to do? And then it was like 4.5 months later.
Shit, you know.
So yeah, but I love it there.
So that's where you are now?
Yeah, that's where I am now.
So you're on Fisher Street?
Yeah.
So whereabouts?
You know Fisher Street Galleries?
Yeah.
Yeah, just in there on the top floor. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. I love it. It's like, because I'm in there with my sister and basically my brother-in-law.
Right.
So it's just the three of us.
Just a nice little family
It's
gig.
Like the best.
Perfect. Yeah.
It's amazing.
So how have you done your decor? Have you just done it?
Yeah.
Kind of
scary skulls. No.
Have you not gone down that classic gothy?
No, we haven't actually.
You've got more contemporary.
Imagine Secret Garden.
Yeah.
One of the walls is just totally covered in like flowers and fake flowers.
Yeah.
And foliage, and it's like we kind of wanted to go non-traditional in terms of tattooing.
Yeah.
I think
so almost like a salon.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like a little like. But we wanted it to still feel like you were going somewhere for something, and have a nice day out, and
like
that kind of thing. Exactly. Because I think when you're going to do something like that, especially with it being such a high price, thing to be doing, you want the full experience. I think anyway. Like we've got a TV on the wall.
I was going to say, do you have music on and
a full shebang? You name it. I think I've got every streaming platform. I think it's so important.
Absolutely.
Especially for some people who are really nervous when they come in, so it's quite nice.
Because you'll find as well, because obviously I'm finding this really easy with you because you're used to talking with people,
for
same
hours.
as I am.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's dead easy, isn't it? But you can imagine you'll get customers the same as me that you can't.
Yeah.
You can't get anything out of them.
Yeah,
and it's like, you try your best. It's worse for you because you've potentially got hours with them.
Yeah, yeah.
I've just got a couple of minutes to serve on a spud.
I tell you what, like,
so, yeah.
I just got quiet. I'm like, you don't want to talk? That's fine. That's cool, man. I'll just get on with my thing.
It's good as well. I mean, because surely you'll be lost in the zone, won't you? But if someone's talking to you, do you find it a bit of a distraction sometimes or not? Or do you just get in the zone?
Depends what I'm
towing. Does it?
Because sometimes I will literally, and if I had £1 for every time I've said this, and I bet anyone who's watching I've tattooed will go, yeah, she's fucking said that so many times. I'll say, I'm really sorry if I go silent on you. Like, for a minute, I promise it's just a really complicated line that I want to get done. And they always go, oh, don't worry, I won't distract you. And I'm like,
yes.
Cool. But it's honestly, yeah, if I'm doing something that has a lot of like complicated line work, I will like blinkers, stick the telly on, get the subtitles on. They're like, you know, glued to the telly. And it's great because what I actually tend to find sometimes, some people don't want to talk.
No.
They actually come in and actually want to have just like a nice, chill, relaxing experience and not feel forced they have to make conversation with me. And that's completely fine.
That's great.
I guess I assess the person in terms of how much conversation I'm going to get out of them at the beginning. Because some people will nervous chat, which is also fine. And I'm just there, you know, Bish will talk and it's fine. And I'm completely happy to do that. But also I get a lot of mums come in and, you know, they're running around after kids all day, doing mad stuff all day, constantly having to entertain someone. So they just want to come in.
They just want to chill, literally, don't
exactly.
they? So it's almost like a spa experience for them, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, 3 hours in, they're like, I haven't sat this still in like so long. It's so nice. And what always makes me laugh as well is if we finish early and they've like, you know, sorted babysitting for a while, they go, just going to go walk around town for a bit, pretend I'm still here. And I'm like, you do that. So,
have you had any fainters?
I have, touch wood, not had any fainters yet.
Have you not?
No, I'm quite lucky actually, I have to say. But
because Chris said it was quite a common thing.
It is, but I think because of the nature of the kind of tattooing I do, it's quite gentle.
Right, yeah.
Typically anyway.
Yeah.
Also, I can spot them quite quickly.
Right.
I can, now at least, I can be like,
you can see
something's going on. Or they'll quite often say, can I stop for a second? And I'm like, yep, get the legs up. You know, here's a glass of water, here's a bit of sweet, you know, it's fine. We're so kind of, because we're all emergency trained, first aid.
Yeah.
So
do you have to be? Is that stipulated?
No, I don't think you do.
Right.
But you should.
Yeah.
I think, especially with it being a job where the nature of someone could really hurt themselves and they could faint, hit the deck.
Because I mean, in a weird sort of way, I suppose tattooing is almost, it could come under the umbrella of medical, couldn't it?
In a
weird way. You know, there's no difference between someone squeezing a load of collagen into somebody or tattooing someone who's doing the collagen thing, they have to be medically trained.
They should be. They quite often aren't, but they should be.
So it's, you know, it makes sense, like you said, that you should have that skill.
I think. Yeah.
So just in case.
Honestly, accidents can happen.
Exactly.
And you know, if your client, because sometimes they don't say anything. I've quite often seen cases where they're just straight out. Right. And, you know, if they're, you know, not aware of their surroundings and they're not like, and quite often you're not like fixed in position, you know, just go straight off, smack head on a bar or the floor and you need to know what to do in that situation. Exactly. So
because I'd imagine you get some people in some strange positions, don't you?
Oh yeah, some nutty
just stand like that for half an hour.
Yeah, and honestly, like the amount of times where I've literally sent someone's leg to sleep or something, and I'm like, I'm really sorry. Tell me if you can't feel your hand anymore, please.
Because what's your? You typically, from the work that I've seen on your Instagram page, it's very fine line stuff, isn't it? So you don't necessarily do back pieces, do you? Or have you? Or
I do a few. I mean, it's not common for me, but if I do, I mean, I quite enjoy doing large scale fine line stuff. It's not so common as much, but it's more common now But when I started doing it, it wasn't as common, at least not in Carlisle anyway.
Right, yeah.
But I do enjoy doing quite bigger freehand florals and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not that common.
Yeah, because I noticed one of your, I think it's one of the more recent posts, and it was a guy had a big flowery sleeve, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was really impressive, and it was really refreshing to see a guy having.
That was my brother-in-law.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So is he one of the tattooists at your
shop? He's another tattooist. Yeah.
But it was just like, whoa, because most guys, it's like schools.
Yeah, man stuff. Okay.
So it was really great to see a guy just and it must be nice. Is that your favourite thing, doing flowers and that?
I do love florals, mostly because they have such an organic shape to them.
Yeah.
So, because I'll typically freehand them.
Yeah.
I can pretty much draw them in any shape, sort of like petal over there, leaf up here.
Yeah.
And they'll look good because, flowers don't.
So in a weird way, you have become David Attenborough of the tattoo world.
Maybe. Maybe. I'll take that. I got there a little bit. Yeah.
You got there in the end.
Percentage, yeah. But yeah, no, I do love them because I think they can fit most places on your body and look good.
They can't they? And then you can put vines around.
Exactly.
And they just naturally work with an arm or a leg anyway, don't they?
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, it's really cool.
Yeah, I love them.
And I noticed as well there's a lot of kind of mythological-y, kind of dragony type things as well.
Yeah, I do love a dragon. I do love a dragon.
So I'm guessing you watch Game of Thrones.
I've watched Game of Thrones.
More than once.
You know that, I've watched it. Definitely. And this is something that I quite literally force on all my clients. I'm like, what do you want to watch today? And I'm like, have you seen this yet? You haven't seen it? I'm putting it on.
What do you reckon to the new...
House of Dragon?
Yeah.
I literally watched the most recent episode today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, literally just before I came.
Because it's out now on Now, isn't it?
Yeah, Now TV. Yeah. I do like it, actually. It's good.
Do you think they've just chucked... It's just... Because I haven't watched any of this, so I watched the last one. And it's 100 years, or am I getting mixed up with Vikings?
I think it might be more than that, actually. I think it's like...
a few
could be up to 1,000 years or something. Why would
before
like
or after?
really...
I can't remember.
Before.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Because Vikings is the one that's 100 years later, isn't it?
The
two kind of running parallel, aren't they?
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing we're having to learn a new load of characters, aren't we? So
full new cast.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, and it's difficult as well because I suppose you've invested that much time in those last 7 or 8 seasons. So it's like 7 or 8 years of watching. And it's like, and then you think, are they just chucking a load of money on effects? Or because what did you think of the last? Because a lot of people didn't rate, the original season.
Yeah.
The original series.
Yeah.
The very last season when it was. Did you think it was a bit too dark, or not dark as in
the last season of House of Dragon, or Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones.
The very, very last season of Game of Thrones.
Remember when it was like. There was the final battle scene.
Oh, literally dark.
Yeah, literally not dark as in that's a bit dark.
Yeah.
No, literally too dark to see what was going on.
God, the amount of times I saw that meme of the woman like this at that scene, I was like, that's so accurate. Can't see a damn thing.
It is, isn't it?
That was a great episode, though. I did enjoy that.
It was.
It was really good.
But there's some awesome characters in that. Because you read the book or not?
I started reading the book and I found it really difficult, so I stopped. But yeah,
I found that with I'll talk about it in one of my previous episodes with Stephen King.
Yeah.
Right? So I love all of his films, love them, but I can't get into the books.
Yeah.
And then someone lent me, because I had my knee swapped as a knee replacement earlier this year, and a guy listened to the podcast. He said, "Yeah, Tim, have a read of that while," and I thought. So I was like stuck there, and I thought. So I forced my way through the first bit, but then you've got it in your head from the film. So you was kind of like picturing parts of it, and then it was kind of like, and I imagine that would be the same if you're trying to read Game of Thrones now. It'd be like, but as well, Game of Thrones, it doesn't go anywhere. Apparently, because my mate's read him, he says it stops at maybe season 3 or something, the equivalent of season 3 in the TV show.
Yeah, it does.
And then they've just kind of made it up the rest of it, but it works. So some of the characters were just,
brilliant, aren't they?
You just wanted them to die.
Oh yeah. Are we talking about what's his face, the sausage guy, shaking the sausage? I can never remember his name, but yeah,
he was just so.
Wowzers.
And that one, he was just so horrible. He was a little king.
Oh, Joffrey.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
the acting is just mental, isn't
Brilliant,
it? When you see them in other things,
yeah,
and then you see him in that, it's just like, whoa,
I know, it's
that
nuts,
is insane.
But he hasn't done anything since him.
Has he
He's
not?
quit acting.
No way.
Yeah. He was like, that was all I'm going to do. Yeah.
Whoa.
So he didn't do it anymore.
Because you see a lot of people, and I'm thinking, oh, that's him out of Game of Thrones, because there was such a vast cast, wasn't there? And it was just like, but I think as well, that was a TV show that just grabbed you from the word go, didn't it?
It was brilliant.
Especially if you're into that. I was quite surprised, because I thought only people like us would be into it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's kind of very niche, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
And then when the whole world got into it, basically the whole world got into it.
It's true.
I think it's still 9.8 or something on the Internet Movie
like
Database.
IMDb or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have a theory about why I think shows like that do so well, especially fantasy, because like you say, you kind of have to be into it to want to watch it.
Yeah.
And still a lot of people haven't watched it. If we're ever chatting with my clients, they're all like, I haven't seen it yet, I haven't watched it yet.
Really?
But I think it's the same with Harry Potter, fantasy grounded in reality.
Yeah.
So I think when you have a fantasy scenario, if it feels believable, and if it feels like if you went to that world, that is what it would be like.
Yeah.
Then I think that's why it was popular.
Yeah.
Because I think Harry Potter was the same as well. I think it felt like fantasy grounded in reality.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel too mad.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could totally believe that's what they would wear.
Yeah.
That's what the creatures would look like. And that's how everyone would act and talk.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I reckon that's why it felt like. Same as Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and I suppose as well, they've all got that classic good versus evil. It's
wrong.
You know, it's Star Wars. it's everything like that.
Love Star Wars.
It's all the it's the same formula, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah, totally.
But it's kind of like, but Lord of the Rings. That you see, I never got into Harry Potter. It was just too kiddified for me.
Yeah, and it was
just
mostly for kids, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was not that I've tried to watch them, but it's just like. No, I'm not really into wizards flying about and playing Quidditch. It's not. I'd much rather.
But you know what I mean about like. Yeah. So if you went there, you'd think this is what I would think. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like,
yeah. Well, there is actually a school very similar to that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Did you see that? It was with. There was it was one of these first reality TV shows.
Oh yeah.
And it was Gene Simmons out of Kiss.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was called School of Rock or something. So
it was
around about the time of the film. Have you seen the film of School of Rock with?
Years ago with Jack Black.
Yeah. And so Gene Simmons did a similar thing with these school kids, but these kids, you would think it was if they suddenly started playing Quidditch, you wouldn't be surprised. They all wear these medieval tunics.
Oh, sick!
And it's somewhere in Surrey or Sussex or somewhere. Oh
yeah.
It's one of these crazy public schools down south. And there was all these kids, and they were all exactly like the characters off School of Rock.
Right, awesome.
And I think one of them became a musician in his own right after it.
Oh yeah.
But it was just like you could imagine.
Yeah,
you could see how Harry Potter, like what you said, it was believable.
Totally.
And I think I always used to say to people, Game of Thrones wasn't dissimilar to the history of Europe, really.
Well, I think that's what it was kind of meant to be, because if you ever see the Game of Thrones map, it looks a little bit like England, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like,
and
it makes sense.
If you know your history, a lot of the things, they weren't dissimilar to things that have actually happened in this country's past and in Europe's past.
Exactly,
so
and all the Jon Snow's family, they were all northern, and they were all in the north, you know, and then the Scottish, obviously meant to be the Scottish lot, wasn't it? The wildlings, all with the curly ginger hair and stuff,
There's so many cliches.
Like, what are you saying about Scottish people there? And then all the Lannisters were like, you know, all posh southern dickheads, true. And they had the like Tyrells from like Sussex and stuff, and it was like, I see where you go with this.
But it was like you said, that all. I think people could relate to every single scene. It wasn't just fantasy for the sake of fantasy.
Exactly.
Was it some wizards doing shit just for
Nutty
the sake
stuff,
of doing it?
And everyone had weird names and stuff, Like, it's so true. That is, because everyone could kind of maybe relate to one character from Game of Thrones. Like Nathan, my boyfriend, he loved Jon Snow. He was always like, Jon Snow. Because
he kind of was gutted when he got killed, wasn't he?
I knew he wasn't dead. I said to him, Nathan was like, no! And I was like, Nathan, you wait. Something's going to happen. Jon's going to come back. I bet you. And I was right. I knew it. Couldn't have killed Jon.
But it was, I think one of my favourite scenes was obviously when Joffrey got killed. I just, not that I'm evil and just want everyone to get it, but it was.
It was great.
But then the guy that got attacked by his own dogs. He was an evil twat.
What was he called? Sausage guy.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't remember him by, but I can't remember what he was called. He was the worst, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I also think he instigated one of the best episodes of TV in history, which was the Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one where Jon's like that, and there's horses running at him, and then the Vale comes and rescues, and it's like that episode, I think, will go down in history as one of the most amazing. It was incredibly shot, I think.
But the whole lot was just unbelievable.
It was nuts,
and
wasn't
the White Walkers were just so sort of. They weren't over the top.
No, they weren't.
Creepy as hell. Can you imagine if we were kids?
Yeah.
And you were watching, like, I'm going back to when I was a kid, so in the 70s, right? Doctor Who was on telly.
Yeah.
And certain,
love Doctor Who.
And you look at them now, and the shittiest, crappiest costumes going, but at the time, it was like, oh my God, that is so scary.
Yeah.
And you can imagine kids watching that. The
Mm.
White Walkers must be the most, and they were just understated. Evil, weren't they?
Just
they
silent, really, weren't they?
Just looking about, sitting on a horse.
I know, but just commanding so much terror.
That presence. Like, and then when they turned that first dragon into one.
I could not cope with that. I had to keep telling myself, I was like, it's not a real dragon. Dragons don't exist. So, like, crushing that scene though. Oh my God. Nah, fuck with the people, not with the animals.
Exactly.
even if they're not real.
Even imaginary dragons.
Yeah, exactly. I think in what was it, in the last episode, when it was first episode of the new season of House of Dragon.
Yeah. Didn't one of the dragons get killed? Or
No. In the new, the new
series.
Season, me and Nathan were about to watch it, and we'd heard this, like, rumour, like, it's really dark, it's really awful, what happens at the end, it's a really awful thing, and we were like, oh my God, Game of Thrones is going to be awful, what the hell? And then, like, halfway through the episode, like, spoiler alert, by the way, guys, close your ears if you haven't watched it, but one of the characters kicks a dog, like fake dog.
Yeah.
But one of the bad guys kicks the dog, and it's like, oh, and I was like, no, he's gonna die, kill him. And then, like, I was traumatized by that alone. And then at the end of a child gets his head cut off.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I'm more upset about the dog, honestly. And me and Nathan were like, yep, justice for the dog. Not okay.
It's true.
But yeah, and we were expecting way worse than that. I can't blame it, honestly.
It's true though. Even when I sort of watched Jurassic Park and things like that, and like
one of my favourite films,
the dinosaur dies. It's like, oh,
unacceptable.
So sad.
Unacceptable.
It's a bloody
so traumatizing, isn't it?
Puppet.
It's so bad. I think it was at Jurassic World when you see the really big dinosaur, like, no, as the volcano's coming for it, and you're just like, oh, not okay. Yeah. Oh, so dramatic and so bad. No, can't deal with that.
So I think that's led lovelyly onto, if that's a word, onto your fabulous
my book.
new book.
Yeah, my book. Yeah, no, it's It's definitely, again, fancy grounded in
Sardan.
reality.
Should we have a look at that? That's
Yeah,
the book. Look at that, baby. Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll come out of the shop there.
Beautiful artwork by one of my best friends who did the most incredible painting for it, and the back as well.
Did
she did
or he?
beautiful. Yeah.
That's one of the characters.
Yeah.
And is it like that in your mind's eye?
Pretty much.
Is it?
Bang on.
Is it?
Yeah, pretty much. He's like a little, obviously, fantasy creature. But yeah, and she also inspired one of the characters in the book as well.
No way.
Yeah, so it was just like, had to be.
So without giving too much away, because I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yeah. What's it about? Yeah.
Is it? Because I mean, it's difficult as well. Because I suppose there's the quintessential Lord of the Rings, which is like when I messaged you last night, I told you about a book this series of books I'm reading called the Darkness Within. Unbelievable. Right. But there's so many, and I suppose it's difficult because how can you not do a fantasy book and not touch on aspects of Lord of the Rings? It's virtually impossible, isn't it?
I think purely because Lord of the Rings covers a lot of aspects in the fantasy world, purely like good overcoming evil, fantasy creatures, magic systems, that kind of thing.
So I think everybody is always going to be, there's always going to be a slight comparison, isn't there?
Of course. I think that's what fantasy is, really.
But I think for people that read it, we don't necessarily think, well, this is a rip-off of Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Because it's new characters. And in the J.D. Franks book that I'm reading, there's a lot of, not astral planing, but they're finding portals and going to other planes and getting lost in places. And and there's all different things like that, as well as what's going on the planet that they're on, and the good versus evil characters and these orky type characters. And, so it's all...
It's all connected in some way.
But it as well, and imagine you found this. When you're writing a fantasy novel, you can just let your imagination go berserk.
Wherever you want.
Can't you?
It's great.
And
there's no rules.
Exactly. So I've got Mike coming on soon, Mike Craven.
Yeah. Mike,
so he's coming on, not next week, the week after.
Awesome.
So he's going to we'll be chatting about different things, but obviously he's going to have certain parameters that he has to stick by to make it seem realistic. Do
you know much about like his background at all?
I know that he was a probation officer, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I think what Mike's done really cleverly with his books is because obviously he's got all that knowledge of when he had that job. Exactly. So, and because his novels are sort of crime fiction, he obviously knows a lot of the ins and outs of how that
world works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he knows a lot of the rules, he knows what really would happen. And what also is great about what he does is he puts in little snippets of like education.
Oh, right.
Well, at least that's how I'm picking up on it anyway, because he'll say some jargon words from that world and you'll be like, huh? And he'll sort of explain it in a really non kind of obvious way. So it's really clever in that sense. So you're kind of learning how it all works. Because a lot of the time you can read crime fiction and they'll be saying, this, that and the other, and you'll be like,
what?
No idea, but cool, whatever. But he kind of is like teaching you about it as well in a sense, and in a non-patronising way either, which is great. His books are so easy to read. It's awesome.
I'm really looking forward to this because someone put me onto him bizarrely. I mean, how random is this? I told Mike the other day when he was at a book signing at a bookshop in town. It was the same bookshop I tried to get yours from.
Oh, right, yeah.
They could find it, but they couldn't order it.
Oh,
so how random is that? So maybe it's your publisher or something. I wouldn't know.
Well, because I'm self-published.
Right.
At the minute, I can only get it on Waterstones online and Amazon online. So I'm sort of like dotting around and trying to get everyone else to sort of jump in on it. But so that might be why. If it's an independent bookshop,
it is. So. The random way that I found out about Mike, I think someone told me about him years and years ago. They said, there's this really good crime writer and he sets everything in the Lake District. Because I knew I kind of like, I probably like you, I read all sorts of stuff. It's not just one genre. Same with music, it's not just one genre. It's like, there's a default, but there's a good mishmash of everything. And and I probably went off onto another tangent and started reading something else. But anyway,
yeah.
Someone tagged me in something that he'd posted on his Facebook page about 6 months ago. Anybody know anyone with quirky different names that would make a good character? So I thought, oh. So I didn't know anything, but someone had tagged me in it.
Yeah.
And they'd said, you want to use Chatty Tim from Penrith? Because so they'd obviously tagged my thing in. And I thought, what's this madness? And then I saw it was him. And then from what someone had told me ages ago, I thought, oh, this must be that author that I was on about. And then so I got one of his books when I was at the book signing.
The Mercy Chair?
No.
I got the
very, very first one, yeah. So I thought, well, if I'm going to start at the beginning.
1000% start at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's such a good series.
And you could probably pick it up, but you're going to miss so many good stories. Because I'm guessing there's these two characters and there's a story per book.
Yeah.
But probably an underlying story that threads between all of the books, perhaps.
Somewhat, yeah. It's certainly like, in terms of the relationships between the main characters, for sure, there's like an overarching, like how they grow as a group. Yeah. For sure. Especially in the last couple books. Right. It's great. It's awesome.
It's good.
Yeah. But there's definitely like a specific thing for each book, which is awesome. They're so good.
Well, this is what I'm looking forward to having a chat with Mike, because, like the same reason I'm going to chat about the book with you now, is where they get the ideas from, and I'm guessing with you, it will have been just a lifelong thing. I'm guessing. Would you say that you were always, because you touched earlier that school wasn't your bag, so to speak? Were you always the alternative-y sort of gothy girl then, or not? Or
ironically, not the gothy girl, but I was definitely in the like misfit group. Yeah, that's for sure. I definitely wasn't one of the like popular girls. No way. But I was definitely like a bit alt for sure. Yeah.
Because what era were we talking? When we're talking?
Because I would have left school 2009. Right. Because I'm 31 now. Right. So I was like early to noughties kid kind of thing. Yeah.
So that was Slipknot-y, corny, type stuff. Yeah.
Arctic Monkeys, that kind of vibe.
So you were indie-ish. Yeah, bit rocky type stuff. Yeah.
Again, I'm like you. I like a bit of everything. Sorts, I listen to everything. But I think for me, what I struggled with this school is I just found it really boring.
Did you?
I just couldn't understand why I found it difficult to like understand a lot of stuff. Yeah. Because I just wasn't interested. Right. In a lot of what we would get taught. So I think with fantasy, you can just go anywhere with it. Yeah. So for me, I love that like boundless opportunities, no holes barred, just go for it. You think of any weird shit, just write it down. Like, so I love the fact there's not really any rules for it. Although ironically, there is rules with magic systems, which I had to learn hard lesson with. But generally can go anywhere with fantasy, which I love.
So you didn't even do English wasn't the thing for you at school?
No.
Really?
No. I literally am 1000% self-taught.
Self-taught?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And to me, that's how I work best, personally. Yeah. I did English at GCSE, but didn't do anything after that. I did well. Did all right, yeah. Like, you
could read and write.
Whatever, like I'm not going to win any awards. I'm not going to upset anyone. Yeah, true. But I think what I did struggle with in terms of English is we only ever got to learn about, the classics. Yeah. Which is fine. Yeah. I don't mind. I'm happy to learn about Great Gatsby and With Mice and Men and all that lot, whatever. But I think with the classics, it's kind of more a showcase of English ability. Yes. If that makes sense. Yeah. It's less story, more send a message and how good am I at writing subtle words and stuff. And it's like, again, cool. Yeah. But no one's going to be like, oh, I read Great Gatsby every year. Oh, I love it. I live my life by it, whereas people are obsessed with Harry Potter.
Yeah, yeah.
But no one's winning any English literature awards for Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But for story, people love it.
Yeah.
Like, I think, especially what I've done with this is I've really tried to ensure that it's a book that everyone can... It's really accessible, I hope, anyway. At least that's what I've been told so far. But I didn't want anyone to start reading it and start feeling really stupid. You know what I mean? Because I don't either understand the word, or they feel like they can't keep up with the pace, or they feel like they can't understand what anyone's saying, anything like that. And so I've really tried to make it an easy read, purely for myself anyway, because I'm riddled with ADHD. So for me, I find it difficult to focus.
Yeah.
So...
Wow, so doing that is doing tattooing.
I know, right? It's like, how am I doing this? I know, it's nuts. But yeah, I think...
that'll do on board.
I know. But I guess with tattooing, I've managed to channel the hyperfocus.
Onto that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's the same with this.
Johnny, who was on here about 2 episodes ago, and he was a fingerprint technician. He used to work with the police. And he had... He's still got ADHD. He's just he didn't realise until he was diagnosed in his 40s. Yeah. So he's just been put on meds for it. And he said, look, what you just said then, he was hyper focused on that fingerprints, because you can imagine this was proper old school. Looking at fingerprints in like that and checking them and checking each thing, and he said he loved it.
Obsessed with it,
because he says, but then it became too easy, and then and he'd do it all, and because he was working for the police and such a big organisation, and as me, you, him, we're all kind of unemployable in that respect, aren't we? We can't work for those in those environments. No. So the clash was massive, because he was coming in, doing the work, and then spending the rest of the week, 60 hours a week, just on his phone dossing, because he'd done what needed to be done. So he was constantly in bother with his bosses. So in the end, he quit that, opened a CrossFit gym, and now he's a CrossFit entrepreneur and does this like mountain bike stuff. He's like,
I know,
he's going all over the world doing that. So
you got to do it.
Yeah. So, but it's funny how that drive. Do you think if you hadn't got the ADHD, you would be
it
doing
be the same?
Yeah.
I think.
Do you think you'd have just buckled down at school?
I think where my drive comes from is probably a healthy dose of delusion, in a sense. Because I'm kind of like, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
If I really want to, I will do it. And I will give 1,000%. But then also you can crash afterwards as well, which is difficult, because you'll be like, oh my God, I can't do it. Blinkers focus. Yeah. And then at the end, you're like, boom. Like, I'll quite often get home from work and I'm like asleep on the sofa.
Really?
Like, out of it, out like a light, especially if it's been a long day.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have a responsibility to be 100% focused on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
With the job that I have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe I would find a better balance in terms of the work and the relaxing.
Yeah.
Probably would be better if I didn't. But at the same time, I'm not bothered by it. I'm happy with it.
It's just you.
It's just the way I am. Yeah. I don't feel at a loss with it. No. I don't feel like I've missed out on anything. I don't feel like it's a detriment to me in any way. So, yeah, I guess
it's just you.
It's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
So, do you talk then about the burn afterwards? Crushing and burning. Did you find that with the book? Or was it such a long process? Because I know...
Yeah.
Did you post something? You said it took 7 or 8 years to get from the beginning to where it is now.
Yeah, because it was maybe the year I started tattooing.
Yeah.
I would be walking to and from work and I'd start getting like little flashes of like... I have that thing where you can see the pictures. Yeah, some people can hear the voice, some people can see the pictures. So I'd start seeing like little action scenes.
Yeah.
And it would quite often involve my friends or like versions of them or something. And they'd be like, oh, this is cool. I think because I've always loved movies and TVs and stuff, I love that. So I quite often will see like little stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I should start writing this down. Because I've always known I wanted to be involved in like media in some way.
Yeah.
And I've always loved creating, like creative writing.
Yeah.
I've always loved that. And I think I initially was going to write a movie script.
Right.
But I think that is like, you have to go to university for that, in my opinion, because you've got to learn camera angles. Like you've got to account for a lot of other people in a room. It's not just you if you're writing a book, because if you're writing a screenplay, you've got to think cinematographers, editors, all that jazz. So I was like, okay,
I'll just write a book instead.
What can I do? Yeah, I can learn how to write a book. That's fine. But yeah, I mean, you should probably also go to university to learn how to write a book as well.
Oh, no way.
If you want. But yeah, I think I'm 100% self-taught when it comes to the book writing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was the first year of my tattooing. I would walk to and from work. I'd start seeing like little flashes of images. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll write this down. I'll start writing like, I kind of knew the kind of baseline vibe I wanted to go with, which was always like maybe climate change.
Right, yeah.
So I'll come back to something later, which I did with the BBC a long time ago. But so yeah, I started writing it down, and then I started coming up with so many like plot points, I guess, that I was like, this is getting a bit longer than like one book. Otherwise this is just going to be this massive thing. And I was like, nah. So yeah, I sort of was like, okay, it's probably going to be 3 books, or at least more than one. So I got out this big...
So even at that early stage, you knew. Wow.
Yeah, I knew what the overarching thing would be.
Yeah.
I knew who the bad guy was, who the good guy was, and I kind of knew the beginning and the ending.
Yeah.
But there was so much that needed to go on in between that time. I was like, it's going to be too much in one book.
Yeah.
But one of the first things that I learned about book writing and trilogy writing, or any kind of thing with like a series of more than one book, is that you should have little arcs, little story arcs in each book, but then one over, like you were saying with Mike's, little plot points for each one, but then an overarching thing that travels through the whole thing, that they're all traveling towards. So I kind of was like, okay, well, each book needs to have its own goal. Each goal needs to be achieved as it goes along. So but then the culmination of the overarching goal and the last book's goal needs to clash together in one big explosive thing, kind of like in Lord of the Rings. So I was like, now I need to learn how to write a story, because that's all I knew at that point. And I was like, that's fine, but now what am I going to do? Like, now I need to learn about character development, which is a really important process, especially for me, because I think I've always said this, I would never judge anyone. The only way I would judge someone is their capacity for growth. And that for me is a really big thing in the book, like how you can change, quite like, not necessarily your views and opinions, but more like your bravery or, you know, personality traits that can maybe evolve in a more positive way. Because I think we all do that.
We can all do that.
Yeah, exactly.
People don't think they can.
Oh, you
but
totally
we can at 100%. I'm a firm, massive believer in that.
For sure. Exactly. And I think when you're growing and evolving alongside people you care about, there's like this amazing unity that forms when that kind of thing happens. And, you know, you've bonded over that growth. And I think that was one of the big themes of the book. That and, you know, multicultures. I love that. I think different brains from different places coming together is like such a power unit. So that was a real big thing in the book too.
So have you used a lot of your life experience so far? Is in that. So it's not necessarily an autobiography, but it is sort of autobiographical.
Indirect.
Indirectly.
Account of growth. I guess. In a sense, So I started writing it, and I've kept it because it was shit. November 2017, I started writing it, and I was like, I've never done any kind of English learning courses, but I can tell this is shit. It was so bad, and I was doing like classic newbie writer flaws kind of thing. Like I was in.
So you wasn't being too hard on yourself, because we are our own critics,
yeah,
aren't we? But
100%. No, I wasn't. I was like, this has potential.
Yeah, but
I'm doing it wrong. Yeah, exactly. And I think it was Hemingway who said the first draft of anything is shit, and I was like, yeah, fucking damn straight with this. Christ. But I could, I knew there was something in it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give it, the best go that I could. So I thought, well, I'm not going back to school because I've got a job now, which I really love, and it was supporting me really well, and it worked really well for me, and I could see it, taking me to a point where I was fully self-sustainable and have my own space, and then I'd have even more time to write it. So I was like, I'm just gonna have to University of YouTube it, which I did, and I would literally spend, I want to say 2 to 3 hours a night just watching YouTube videos on like story structure and character development, like just over and over again. I'd go to sleep to it as well. And I have a few YouTubers that I love, and I watch. They're mostly like film critics, but they would like analyze why things were wrong and why things were good, and you'd really pick up really good rules about that. Like something I've noticed in a lot of fantasy shows that haven't really worked that well recently is because they've introduced all the characters all in one go right at the beginning. So what tends to happen when you do that, or at least I've definitely noticed it now that I've sort of learnt about that, is you tend not to bond with the characters too well, because you're trying to like
learn too many.
I
don't know if you've watched Wheel of Time.
Wheel of Time. I was literally going to say that.
It's just like that to me, that's what you were talking about. It was like, I put it on, and then it was like, it's not so bad. And then these orky things came and raided the village. Oh, this is going to be good. And then nothing else happened for the rest of this whole season.
Literally.
Not just that episode. You were just learning each character, and you thought, I don't really give a shit about any of these. Lot.
Yeah, you don't. And that's when you go, book off, don't watch anymore. Poor Robert Jordan. Felt so bad for him.
But the book apparently is supposed to be incredible.
Brilliant books.
But there's the TV show.
So bad, and they need to stop doing that because they do that a lot. They were doing that with Rings of Power as well.
Were they?
Yeah. And that's the total opposite of what they were doing with Lord of the Rings. Because obviously you start off with Frodo and Sam, and you really connect with them.
And then other people just latch on.
And they dot in. And you're like, oh, cool, new person. Oh, cool, great, another new person. And then you just, as you would in life.
Exactly.
You know.
You're not just bombarded with, hey, there's a football team full of people. And it's like,
you're like, no thanks.
I feel like having about 10 people in here. And trying to do an
try
interview.
And bond with them all. It's not going to happen.
Wouldn't, would it?
No, it's not.
It's impossible.
And that's exactly what I did with the first draft. I introduced all the characters straight up in the first bit. And I was like, I'm not enjoying this because I can't connect with the characters, and it's really important that you initially connect with the characters. You grow with them, you form relationships as you do in life. So I was like, right, University of YouTube. And I learned so much, and it was great. And I bought so many books on like story structure and all that kind of stuff, and I annotated the crap out of them and learnt again so much. And then what I did after that is I got a great big cork board, and I've still got the picture somewhere, but and I divided it up into 3, which was the 3 stories. And then what I had in my head were plot points or scenes. I'd write them down on I think I cut them into little hexagons to look like a little beehive. It was really cute. Totally unnecessary. It took up far more time than it should.
Do you want any water?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you. But I put them all into little hexagons, and I just pinned them where I thought they would work best in each story. And then after learning about, I'd learn a bit more, and then I'd be like, well, that scene works better over here, or that scene works better over here. So it was
like when you see a cop show, and they have like the suspect, and then they have lines coming off.
Oh, exactly.
And so it was exactly like that, but
pretty
your
much
plot board for your
for
your book.
And then all around the board was like rules to remember.
Right.
About, like, don't do this, don't do this. And one of the biggest ones was a Mary Sue. Have you heard of that? What that is?
A Mary Sue.
A Mary Sue. So a Mary Sue is basically a hero that can do no wrong.
Right.
They're just perfect.
Yeah.
Because they just are. And they go into every situation, they do it perfectly, and everything's great, and they're like really brave and amazing, and you know, it's wonderful. And they can do anything and everything.
Right.
Boring, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just like, oh.
I don't want them.
Well, obviously they're going to be great. Obviously going to be fine in that situation, aren't they? Because then there's no like tension.
Exactly.
You know, there's no like, oh God.
Is he gonna? Is he?
Yeah.
Isn't he?
Or like, ugh, you're just annoying because you can do everything. Like, ugh,
it's one of them books you go, oh, it's him. Skip them.
Exactly.
And then and then it's like, and you kind of get the gist of what's gone on, and then you carry on reading, don't you? I don't know if you do that, but I do that a lot.
You do, or you just don't feel connected with that character because you don't feel like you can relate in any way, shape, or form. And you know, I had a couple of friends back then that were like, look, you need different characters have different abilities, or you know, different personality traits that can do different stuff, and it all sort of slots in to the overarching human of the book, the humanity of the book. So you have like one personality, one. It's like a little Trivial Pursuit wheel, you know.
Yeah.
It all works.
The little cheese.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and everyone's different, and that's great because again, that's how life is. You know, we're not just great at everything.
Exactly.
Who is? And it's the same in a fantasy book, and it should be the same in a fantasy book if you want people to feel connected to it.
Exactly. Well, that's like what you said earlier as well. That's the reason that Harry Potter was a success, and all the other books and films we've talked about, is because we can see ourselves in, or someone we know in those characters.
Exactly.
So that's why they work, isn't it?
Exactly. Like, what would Lord of the Rings be without Legolas?
Yeah.
Or Gimli?
Yeah.
Or Merry or Pippin? You know, Merry or Pippin have to fuck up for something to happen to push the plot forward.
Yeah.
You know, it can't always be the main character.
No. And that's what happens in life, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's great.
Exactly. And I think, you know, when you keep that element weaved into your story, you're going to feel like this is real.
So once you've got that sussed, did it then really start to just flow?
Honestly, and I never understood this because I always did find it a little difficult at the beginning, but when I started researching it, they'd all say, oh, snowball. Once you got that, oh my Christ. It's like you can't keep up with yourself.
Go to work today instead of writing.
Yeah, or you'll just be like connected to the phone writing writing notes, and like it will just out of nowhere, and you'll be like, fuck, I have to write that down right now. Otherwise, you know, and it'll be 2 a.m.
It goes though, doesn't it? Because you think, I remember that.
No.
Do you? Shit.
Especially with my ADHD brain, my short-term memory is shocking. It'll be gone.
Someone will say something to me at the store, and I'll think, oh, I remember that. So what I've started doing now is I use voice notes.
Oh yeah, and you talk to
and I just say blah 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 blah, and then I've got about 10 million voice notes now that I go through. And But that, otherwise, you just completely. And with the best will in the world, you think, oh, that's easy to remember.
No.
And then something else happens, and then it's gone forever.
Yeah,
isn't
completely.
it? So then the snowball happened.
Yeah.
And then, when did you know that the end of book 1, the start of book 2 was
gonna connect? As in, when did I know that was going to be the separation point? Quite early on.
Oh, did you?
I think I knew, because what happens at the end of this book was like I had a few different endings in mind, but then I also thought, well, they need this thing that they go after in this book.
Is it a bit cliffhangery?
Yeah, it is. To achieve the thing that they have to do at the end of the final book.
Right.
So I had to think of end goals for every book. Which would lead to the success in the last book, or you know, the failure, or the you know, it's kind of. I had to think of end goals. And I knew, well, if they get said thing, then they'll be able to do this. So this is basically an ending point. So, and it's the most important one. So I'll put it in the first book. That gives you, I mean, to be honest, the first book of any series is probably like connecting you with the characters. That's introducing the introductory point. And then the second one is maybe a bit more emotional, like connecting more, which It definitely will be. And then obviously the third book is a combination of the first two, and it's a bit more like chaotic and all that jazz. So
do you do that? I wouldn't know if it was a classic sort of scenario sort of system, but so you're writing a chapter, and then you leave it on a bit of a cliffhanger, and then chapter 2 is something completely different.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, then you go probably chapter 3 or 4, you pick up on the
another
cliffhanger,
bit,
and then they're all. But that's good hooks, isn't it? So is that an actual
like a technique?
Yeah.
For sure, and I've definitely done that. I didn't do that a lot, but I've done that for a few chapters in this book.
Yeah,
I think.
I suppose it depends on the. Because I'm reading, there's a really good author called Alex Smith.
Right. Yeah.
And he's a bit like. I'm guessing he's going to be a bit like Mike, right?
Yeah.
Except he's only a young lad, and he writes these cop things, crime thrillers, but they're all based in Norfolk.
All right. Yeah.
Really good. I think you can only get them on Amazon, so
okay.
it could be
self-published
like you. Yeah. But there's this underlying story going through. I think there's about 14 books now.
Oh wow! Right.
And there's this underlying story going between all of them.
Yeah.
And then, but each one is its own unique thing.
Plot. Yeah.
But it's always that this happens, and it's fucking hell, and it's like, and then it's like, and then
chapter,
Daisy and
say hello to this new person.
It's fucking hell. So you're reading that as quick as you can, and then you go back to the.
So kind of like an incentive to get to. Yeah. Totally.
And could you do that? Do you read really fast sometimes?
If the book is good, for sure. I'll blaze through stuff.
It's just like, fucking hell, boom, boom.
Oh
There's so much speed.
Yeah.
I think one of the fast. I read Ozzy Osbourne's autobiography in a day because that was so funny. But it was just like, because from Birmingham, and most of it is set in Birmingham until Black Sabbath become really big. A lot of it. So I knew a lot of the places, and it was just like, and whoever wrote it for him, he obviously didn't write it.
Right.
But he must have
sort of dictated, I guess.
And they wrote it like he was saying it. You know what I mean? So it's hilarious.
It's perfect.
I was laughing out loud. It was just I couldn't put it down. Nice. And then the next book that I read in pretty much a day that I couldn't put down was forgot it. Not
You'll remember when I leave. I'm telling you.
I've got the second book, Angels and Demons, but was Da Vinci Code.
Oh, Da Vinci. I was going to say Da Vinci Code. Yeah.
But that was when it was almost probably pre-internet then. Perhaps.
It probably would have been.
Or the internet was just in its infancy.
Yeah.
So there wasn't the crazy conspiracy theories that there are now.
Yeah.
And it was just like, fucking hell.
Oh my
is
God.
this real?
Yeah.
It's like, because a lot of it was based in facts.
Yeah.
And places that you knew of, places that you'd been to, the characters were believable. It was so fast paced.
Yeah.
There was the because
clever
it was
as well.
And he was just like a college professor. He wasn't one of those guys that you
like an agent.
Yeah. It was just like a normal kind
dude.
of bloke,
yeah.
and he was getting into all these scrapes, but believable kind of scrapes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Kind of the scenarios you imagine you'd come across if you were in that situation.
Yeah. You're not looking at that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was kind of like they all have that hook between sort of chapters, don't they?
Yeah,
and even
totally.
Then that second chapter leaves a hook, sometimes not quite as severe, but enough.
Yeah.
But at the same point, you've learned a new character, or there's a new plot twist.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it is all. I mean, there is a massive art.
Yeah, and there's a lot to remember as well.
Yeah.
And I imagine, people like Stephen King who can just chop them out like so regularly now. It will ingrain like the rules and like the things to remember when writing. Like that is definitely a thing. I think one thing I learned when I was writing was try and leave an unanswered question in every chapter that you will eventually answer, whether it be in another book or later on in the book. but always leave the reader like
wanting more.
Yeah, but also in a sense like remembering something that they didn't understand.
Right.
And being like, well, why did they do that?
Yeah.
Or who is that? Or why did they trail off there? You know, like, and then you're kind of like, well, there's in the back of your mind that maybe you're going to get that question answered, and then you eventually do, and then it's really satisfying when it does. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I remember being confused about that. You know, and then it's like.
But do you? I'm a devil for going back.
Oh, and having
so when that scenario happens, it's like, oh, what was that again? Oh yeah, and then it's kind of like, and then you can kind of, it just refreshes it, doesn't it, in your mind? Because I'll sometimes read 2 or 3 books in one go.
I do that too. Everyone's like, how do you do that? I'm like, ADHD.
It's easy. It depends what you. They're usually not all 3 of the same genre.
That's how I get through it as well, and that's exactly what I said to one of my clients the other day. I was like, well, one is Mike's book, which is crime. One is fantasy, and one is
could be something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Like an autobiography or
exactly. Totally book, different.
And it's quite easy when you're doing it like that, isn't it?
Of course, because you don't get them confused. It's really easy, guys. God.
So, I don't want to ask too many questions about the book. Is it set in a world like Earth, or is it a have we gone the Dark Ages, back in time, kind of Lord of the Rings kind of era?
Not quite that far,
right? It's
more like Industrial Revolution era.
Is it?
Yeah, like 1890 maybe.
Oh, so it's going to be a bit like what's that TV show,
Peaky Blinders?
No, and it's kind of got fantasy aspects in it. And what's it on? It's on Amazon or something like that.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, actually. With Orlando Bloom. Is it?
Yeah, I think he's in it. And they wear top hats.
Yeah, definitely that kind of
that era. Sort of vibey era. Is it?
I don't know why
I don't know why. I just thought, automatically thought.
Medieval kind of vibe.
Yeah, especially with the little thing at the back.
The little doggy thing. But it's like 1890s kind of Victorian.
Oh wow!
Like they'll wear boaters and steam.
So you've had to kind of incorporate a bit of historical fact then into it, isn't it?
Totally.
So there was a lot of research.
I had to be like, does candy floss exist then? Did they have chewing gum? And it was like, yes. But so I did have to do a little bit of research, but I guess because I'm from quite an industrial city, initially I kind of knew a lot about it anyway. And the city Valkyrios, where Faye and Cora are from, the 2 main characters, is kind of a fantasy take on London.
Right.
Because essentially there's this toxic, it's called the Grey, but it's like a cloud that is migrating through the world. Yeah. And there's these like really hideous creatures that are inside this cloud. Yeah. And Valkyrios has been walled off by this like 100-foot wall called Wall Francis. And they celebrate every year the building of the Wall Francis because it's kept out these creatures. Yeah. It doesn't stop the Grey from getting in, which makes everyone cough and like kind of my take on pollution. But no one's been killed by a tuck for years and everyone's really happy, but still a bit coughy. But it's kind of like a London vibe at the beginning where they're from. And then they leave that city because they have to obviously go off and do these things. And it's kind of like how my journey from London up north. Really? It's like their journey up, and whether or not they end up there, we never know.
With the things.
With the things. But and it's like them travelling through different cities up and
having adventures on the way.
Exactly, meeting different people from different cities and cultures and
bit of peril like here and there.
Yeah, exactly. What would fantasy be like without a bit of peril? Yeah. So it's their like little journey out of London,
out of this big smoke, literally the big smoke,
exactly,
into the fresher air.
Exactly. Yeah. So and they meet these cool characters.
Is this? I'm gonna whether you answer it or not, it's a different matter. Is this smoke? Will that eventually cover the planet or not, or is it just?
I don't know. It might. Who knows?
Who knows? Read this book to find out.
Basically, it's been like, I don't know how to say the word, set off by the main villain in the book.
Right.
It's their attempt at corralling people, maybe, is a good word, and like control through sickness, control through weakness of humans.
So there's a lot of kind of in vogue kind of
I suppose
things in there.
Totally without meaning to, because I wrote this. I know I came up with the concept 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
So it really was. What is really funny, actually, a little scoop for you. But there's in the very beginning, Faye comes across this kind of like letter from the Prime Minister, and it's essentially like a what to look out for kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, you know, since the building of our glorious wall, Francis, we have experienced, you know, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I based it on the letter from Boris at the beginning of COVID, because that's when I wrote the book.
Right.
Because obviously at that point I completely knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I had it written down in chapter layouts. All I had to do was write the book. And I was like, right, 4.5 months.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm going to write it. Yeah. So when that letter came through, and it was like, I'll see if I can find it actually, because it is brilliant. And it's so close to, and I was like, that works perfectly.
Thanks, Boris.
I'm going to use that. Oh yeah, it was like, and it's, I have to say, it's not far off the letter that he sent. I'm telling you, it was like, I'm writing to you to update you on the steps we are taking to combat the mage, which is magical folk, which everyone is really terrified of in this book.
Yeah.
And the Prime Minister sent out this letter to be like, don't go near them. This is what you should look out for. They're really evil and dangerous. And it's like, in the last 13 years, everyday life in this city has changed dramatically. We have all felt the profound impact of the 17th day of December of 1879 on our community, which is essentially when the grey began.
Yeah.
And then this is why I'm giving you one simple instruction. If you or anyone you know are aware of the presence of mage, you must inform the local authorities, which I believe was, if you or anyone you know knows of anyone breaking the rules, please inform your local authorities. So I was like, I literally like just changed a few words. I was like, this is awesome.
That's meant to be, wasn't it?
It was. The timing was perfect. So I think I wrote it on the day when the letter came through.
Wow.
And I've kept it because I think it's hilarious. Now one day I'll show and I'll be like, it's really close. And it's like, it's wild that you can put those comparisons together. It's a fantasy world and the real world. Exactly. And
which is which?
Exactly. And all I had to do was change a few words over.
Yeah.
Because it's so close to the real letter.
That's crazy.
And then at the end, it's like the 3 different mage types, which is a nether, a cunning man, and a witch. So cunning man is kind of it's a known folklore thing, which is like it's generally meant more men, witchcraft kind of thing, like a wizard, but it's more of a British terminology for a witch or a male witch. And then there's obviously witches, and then the nether, which is the made up magical people in my book, who are people who can essentially channel energy through nature and call it to their aid. But when that happens, because at the beginning of the book I've put, you know, when you put that little quote from someone else's book, at the beginning I've put the law of thermodynamics, because its energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only converted from one form or another. So they can't just create energy out of thin air. They have to like use their own energy or draw it from the earth. They have to kind of like give something to receive something. So like if they use their powers, it weakens them in some way. It's not an uncommon thing, it's been used before, but in this one it's like they'll lose their eyesight, and quite commonly they'll lose the sense that they need the most at that time. Because it's always a last resort. And that is a rule I learned when writing fantasy fiction. The powers should always be the last resort. Because otherwise it can be like, la la la, you know, do this, do that, whatever, has no consequences.
There's in that the Darkness Within sagas. There's a race of people called the Fae,
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they sound very similar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're very much earth, as in sort of earthbound.
Yeah.
All the powers come from the earth, and they've got this amazing ability, so they can actually bring someone back from the dead.
Oh right.
But it means that they die.
Ah.
So it's the ultimate sacrifice, and it's the ultimate last resort.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And there's these two characters, and they're in love, and it's kind of like,
do I give myself for you?
It sounded a bit cheesy, but it isn't.
No, I get you.
When it's in the context of it,
it works.
There's a lot more build up to that.
Yeah,
it's not like Grease.
Would have been a totally different story then, wouldn't it? Yeah, no, I get you.
So you touched then on the witchcraft and Wicca.
Yeah.
So is this when you said earlier about you had to learn?
Yeah.
So did you sort of go and learn Wicca and that sort of thing, or did you have an interest in that? Anyway?
I mean, I've always loved the whole witches weren't evil people.
Yeah.
And also,
there's a thing coming on Channel 4. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I watched an episode today.
Did you?
Yeah, it was great. Watch it. It's fantastic. I can't remember her name. It's the actress from Coronation Street, I think.
Something
like that. But yeah, she's talking about, and it's predominantly.
Did it start in this country first? Or
yes.
Not? Yeah.
And a lot in Scotland.
Yeah.
I think it was. Where was it? Pendle.
In Cornwall.
I can't remember, but I remember it was called Pendle. Because it sounded like Kendall, and I was like, "Oh, it's Kendall," and then it was like, "Oh no, it's not Kendall." But yeah, she's basically looking about like the history of witchcraft. But yeah, so I've always been fascinated by that.
Yeah.
Because I'm a believer in they weren't evil.
Yeah.
They were just women.
They're just women that
who maybe said no.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Imagine tattoos.
Oh, I would
You'd
have
been
burnt
at the stake.
long ago. Oh, so quick. So quick, believe me. But yeah, no, I've always found that fascinating. So the witches in my book are good people in general. Like they're not, they're healers, they're in touch with nature, but their magic system is a lot different from the Nithers and the cunning men.
Right.
So the witches again can draw energy, but it doesn't necessarily take as much from them because they, have a bit more power born within them. It's a little bit more fantastical, but hey ho, it's a fantasy book.
Yeah.
Whereas the Nither really have to
give it loads.
Yeah. The cunning men, it's more like potions.
Yeah.
And again, drawing energy, but they have to. It's a bit more of a build up.
Yeah.
But they have a bit more of an impact when they do it. It just takes longer. So I kind of wanted to, again, like almost, in a sense, explore genders in a sense. Men maybe are a bit more physically strong, whereas women are maybe a bit more emotionally strong. Typically, and the Thayers kind of encompass the both.
Right.
So maybe the draw up is a bit longer and it has a bit more of an impact on them, but they have quite a big impact when they do use it. Whereas witches are a bit more like they can use their emotional, energy to produce the magic, and the cunning men have to do a bit more of a potion and a bit more analytical. But then it's like, boof, it's quite big.
Still works,
So it's like quite interesting, and it's sort of encompassing a broad variety of people and physicalities.
So do you touch kind of like, because you're going around and you're meeting new people from different cultures and that, without giving too much away, do you get do you touch on like a voodoo-y type? Is there any voodoo-y type
I
people,
might do,
perhaps? I'm guessing
maybe.
Because have you watched True Blood? I'm guessing you've watched True Blood. That's
my
favourite
show of all time.
It is insane, isn't it?
Beautiful.
It is just
perfect.
I
love it. And that is exactly kind of, like you said, different magic systems for different cultures, and that's exactly, again, and there's different, I wanted to explore that, but I also wanted to explore different magic systems within different people, just regardless of where they're from or whatever, just like the different kind of person, the kind of magic they can produce themselves.
So did you research this from a factual point of view, or did you just grasp what you've got from the fantasy stuff that you've read and the things you've watched in the past?
Yeah, I have this big, I think it's called the Big Book of Lore, actually.
Yeah.
And it's like different folklore from different parts, specifically England.
Yeah.
This book anyway. Different lore and mythological creatures and
Yeah.
people from different parts of the country.
Yeah.
So the one that was actually from Carlisle, I've implemented that at the end of this book. One of the creatures, yeah. I think I used the name as well. I can't remember because it was an actual kind of creature. But yeah, so I researched. Cunning men is kind of like a normal thing anyway. Like people know about that. So I kind of wanted to research. So
very similar to the Green Man, or not?
Same arena.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a person of the earth.
Yeah.
So, and typically male.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a sense, yeah, for sure, which is, you know, very culturally relevant around here.
Yeah.
But yeah, and witches obviously, I mean, you can go anywhere with witches these days, like the kind of magic they did. But I kind of wanted to ground it all in earth, in the earth kind of energy kind of thing. Because essentially the whole point of this toxic grey cloud is it kind of suppresses that. Yeah. Because it's like sucks life away, sucks life energy. Yeah. So it stops.
Makes everyone become compliant and do as they're told.
Exactly. Exactly. So it was kind of like
a bit like one of those. A bit like one of these things.
Yeah, one of them things. Yeah. Exactly. So it was like, yeah, and essentially when the grey cloud passes through greenery, it kind of like makes the leaves coil and stuff like that. And then obviously magical people can't
harness that energy from it.
So their magic doesn't really work because of this grey cloud. So
you know what? It's totally different to what I thought it was going to be.
Did you? What did you think it was going to be?
I thought it was going to be, because I'd seen the thing, your front cover, and I think I'd seen the little
spiral.
doggy thing at the back.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, oh, it's going to be envisaged like a Northern European.
Oh yeah.
Not necessarily Vikings, but Viking-esque, kind of Norsey.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
Just because of that, because it was very green.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, it's obviously not going to be a Middle Eastern-y, deserty type quest. Yeah. And
totally.
I thought it would perhaps be a quest, which they usually are in fantasy novels, aren't
quest, they? Yeah, totally.
So I thought, well, it's going to be European-y, Northern European-y, perhaps going into sort of Germanica type area.
Yeah, sure.
Flitting around them sort of places. And not really I didn't think there was going to be dragons and things.
There's no dragons in it.
But I thought there'd be I thought there'd be more elves. And,
like magical creature people. Yeah. There isn't. It's humans.
That is ace.
And people who channel energy from the earth, basically. So I would say it's more Celtic folklore kind of thing. I mean, I'm Celtic. I'm Irish of descent. Irish Scottish, totally. So yeah, I've always loved kind of mystical, eerie Celtic energy. I love that. It's kind of like, oh, you know, maybe if I go into this forest, there is like a little woodland creature following me or watching, and it all feels kind of eerie and spiritual in a way. So yeah, it's very much like England energy, or England, Ireland, Scotland, you know, Wales, that kind of.
So it's like a British Isles-y type vibe going on.
Exactly. But it's multicultural in a sense that obviously we have a lot of cultures coming into our country, which is great, you know, and it's amazing. They're vital to the end result, essentially. So, yeah.
It all sounds fantastic.
I know, I can't wait. I can't wait for everyone to read it.
So where can people get it?
So they can get it on Amazon right now, and also Waterstones online.
Waterstones online.
Yeah. So
So and they'll come through as you can either get digital.
Yeah, you can get ebook as well. Yeah, so you can get.
Or you can get a hard copy delivered to your door.
You can get, yeah.
That is awesome. When's book 2 coming out?
So I've got some time off in September for my birthday. I always take the whole month off. Yeah. Just because, why not? So I'm going to try and write it then.
What, a whole book?
The whole of volume 2 in the month. No way. Yeah.
Same sort of size as that?
Similar, yeah. I reckon. I'm going to try. I'm not going to promise anything. And then hopefully, because obviously it will have to go through some rigorous editing processes, no doubt, because I'm very dyslexic. So I need to get like 10 different people to read it and spot stuff. But and then hopefully, maybe same time next year, I can have
this one, book
volume 2 out.
Awesome.
Because I've already had several people be like, you need to write it now.
Really?
Yeah, like honestly, quite a few. And it's great. I love hearing that. But at the same time, I'm like, I hope I can do it justice. I think it'll be good though, because it's a lot more emotional than the next book.
Yeah.
So I think you'll get a lot closer with the characters, which will be nice. I'm looking forward to writing it.
So book 1 is a bit of a gist of the characters.
So
the gist of what the quest is.
Yeah.
And a cliffhanger ending.
Pretty much, yeah. Because there's one of the characters especially is essentially a take on, you know, a fantasy version of Scotland, Scottish girl.
Yeah.
Who seems to be everyone's favourite. And I wrote her like that. I kind of wrote her as a gift to my Scottish clients.
Yeah.
Because I want to say 70% of my clients are Scottish. And I really wanted to like honour that in a way.
Yeah.
Because the character who she is she's just fantastic. She's like gritty, you know, Scottish girl, and she's one. Not
she's like, if you could make a best friend, she's it.
You'd want her. Yeah. And because essentially she's one of the Sardan, because the Sardan is actually named after the human warriors in it, not the magical people.
Right.
Because
you talk with me.
Yeah.
You know, when someone mentions warriors, you automatically, you know, think of people. You know, what's his email? Jason Momoa when he was in
Aquaman,
like when he was in Game of Thrones, what were they called?
You know, I'm not going to remember.
You know the ones I mean.
Yeah, Dothraki.
Yeah. Someone mentions warrior, you automatically think of someone like that, don't you?
No.
Or a Viking, or you know. But you wouldn't think of someone in a bowler hat in the 3-piece tweed suit.
Oh yeah, no, she's the Scottish girl anyway. She's about 5'1".
Really?
Short curly hair, great big glasses with really thick things. And she has things that come down in front of it. And she's really like, just kind of like small and angry, but she's awesome. It's just,
I love it.
And she's one of the...
You've totally chucked the rule book away.
Completely. I think that's
ace.
How
that's how it
life
should
is
be.
Meant to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Totally. They're all not what you expect, and I think
excellent.
That's what
I'm really looking forward to reading it.
Good. It's not what you expect.
Well, you know what? I think we've had a great night tonight.
Oh, good. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
So just to reiterate, we'll just show that to the people. You should be watching this on YouTube, people. So Indie D, Sardan, Volume 1, I think. You can see that. If I put it any closer, it'll go out the light.
Yeah, well, just suddenly focus on something else.
Yeah, that is awesome. Not too small a print either.
No, I don't know how I've managed to pack so much in, but I did. It's quite a lot that goes on.
Brilliant. Just as a final note, would you recommend anybody who's listening or watching, if they've got an idea for a book, just do it?
Go for it.
Yeah.
And that's coming from someone who failed pretty much every exam I ever did. So don't be discouraged by what a piece of paper tells you, because honestly, perseverance really is everything.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Don't
stop.
Really don't.
And don't listen to it.
No.
Don't listen to any negativity.
Oh my God, the amount of times I've been told that I won't achieve something.
Yeah. Just ignore it.
Let it go over your head. Yeah. Because you can do whatever you want.
You can do anything. If you put your mind to it,
1,000%.
You can achieve anything.
1,000%.
Absolutely anything. And on that positive note, I think we shall call it a night. So thank you ever so much, guys, for watching and listening. You know what to do if you enjoyed it. Leave some comments in the comment section or whatever. And stay curious and stay safe. Take care. See you soon. Bye.